I think they're a good deal for $50. They are not state of the art. I wouldn't say they're audiophile grade at all. They sound good. They have a nice consumer mainstream sound. Here we have the QCY H3S. This is a Bluetooth wireless active noise canceling headset from QCY. I have it featured here in the gray color. It also comes in black and white. It's a relatively lightweight headset. It weighs about 240 grams according to QCY. I measured it at about 244 grams, but that's pretty close. The ear cups are pretty thick, and you've got about 14.5 millimeters of depth. It has a dual driver design with 40 millimeter and 13 millimeter dynamic drivers. It has Bluetooth 6.0 and supports dual connection. You've got nice padding here in the headband. It's soft and pliable, and it doesn't feel heavy or uncomfortable on your head. I was able to wear these for hours at a time without any discomfort. You've got this shiny top, which kind of resists fingerprints, sort of. It's not as bad as if it was shiny or if it was like a black plastic. I think those would show fingerprints a little bit more. So this isn't a bad choice. This kind of faux brushed metal finish isn't too bad. The ear cups are relatively simple. Just have this QCY branding on them on both cups. Nothing too ostentatious, and there's nothing here on the side. You saw the top, there's nothing on the other side. So they're not too obnoxious when it comes to branding. So they look like from the front and the back. All of the action is on this right ear cup. And here you have all of the buttons. So we've got here the ANC button. You've got a little microphone, or actually this is the LED. You've got the power button. You've got plus and minus, which by default control volume, and then you've got a microphone and the USB-C port. They do, as you can see, fold up, which makes them a little bit easier to travel with. They do not come with a bag or a case, but at $50, I think that's forgivable. You can pick up a case of your own. Now you can see that the inside of the ear cups is labeled with L and R for left and right, which makes it easy by sight. There isn't anything on here by feel, like sometimes the Sonys have those little buttons, those little nubbins, little sticky thingies on the side that help you know which ear cup is which. Here you just have to remember all the buttons on the right ear cup, and as soon as you find the buttons, you know, okay, well that's the right ear cup. So that's one easy way to keep track of what side is what. There's no labeling on the arms. It's just on the ear cups. So either you look at the letters or you remember the buttons are on the right side. Now, I did compare these against the Nothing Headphone 1, which does not fold up like those do. It's got a little stiffer padding. I don't know if that's going to come across in the video, but the padding here, you can see how that I push it in and it takes a little bit longer to come out, where this one it's almost instantly popping back. It's a stiffer padding here on the ear cup. You don't have any lettering inside, but you do have indicator on the headphone arm that tells you left, and you've got this color marking on the outside with the red that tells you that it's the right side. I've got an aftermarket thingy on here. There's not a lot of padding here. You can see the really thin padding, and then actually this thing that I've got on here doesn't really add it. I was hoping that it would give it a little bit more depth, because these are just a little bit too big for my head. Even fully collapsed down, they're just a little bit too big for my head. The ear cups, though, what I do like about these is that the cups themselves, it's going to be hard to line this up, but the cups themselves are so much thinner. You can see that's coming across how much bigger these are compared to the Nothing. I love that the Nothing is so thin. It's my favorite feature of these headphones. I don't mind the kind of crazy cassette design. I don't mind that at all, especially in black. I think it looks relatively understated, but those thin cups, I mean, look at that. It's like an inch difference almost. That's crazy. I love how thin the Nothings are. And then we have the Sony WH. And right away you can see 1000 XM5. What I was talking about with that black, really picking up dirt and grime and grease and debris. These black headphones really do show it all pretty well. The XM5s didn't fold up. The XM4s did. The XM6s did. The XM5s do not. They do open flat like that though. There's no lettering inside the cups. The cup depth here is pretty similar. It's pretty similar. When I measured it, and it's hard to measure, I got a little bit more depth out of these. Just a little bit more. So if you find that the ear cups on the Sonys fit you and they don't make your ears hot or uncomfortable from a touching, from an inside perspective, then these will probably be fine. I will say that wearing these, I've been using them in the winter in the Midwest, and I find that they can heat up my ears. They can get warm after a long wear session. So if you're heat sensitive, keep that in mind. These do heat your ears up. I think that's probably common though. If you wear any of these kind of plasticky ear cups for too long, especially if they touch your ears inside, you're gonna probably get heated up. So these have that little nubbin that tells you that this is the left side. And on this one, you've got all of the buttons on the left side. Pretty similar in its button layout with power and pairing, and then the noise control and the headphone jack here. But you have the USB-C port on the other side with the Sonys. The difference, obviously, with the Sony too is that you have touch controls for everything else, whereas with these, everything is controlled by hardware buttons. Just like with the Nothing has hardware buttons as well. You got the little rocker that does multiple things, and then this flippy button that does multiple things, and you've got the power on the bottom, your USB and your 3.5 on the bottom, and there's a pairing button here somewhere. There it is. There's a pairing button right there. So you do have quite a few buttons on all of these, but only the Nothing and the QCYs let you control all of your major things by hardware buttons, whereas the Sonys have touch controls, which require you to do more things by tapping on the ear cup. With the QCYs, you can get about 102 hours of playtime according to QCY. That drops down with ANC to 58 hours. So if you're using them 100% ANC, you can expect the battery life to decrease roughly in half. If you're using them with LDAC, it doesn't give a specified battery life for that, but I would expect that the battery life with LDAC will decrease as well. I used them with ANC on most of the time, and with LDAC most of the time, and I used them over the course of 3 weeks off and on, and didn't really have to charge them. I charged them when I first took them out of the box, took them on Christmas vacation for 2 weeks, used them sporadically, came back, used them pretty heavily for another week, and really charged them once, and not even fully in that time. I think I put them on the charger for maybe about 30 minutes. Not even because it was giving me a low battery warning, just because I felt like, well, I've been using these for 3 weeks, I should plug them in. So I would say the battery life is pretty good. If you're used to getting 40 hours, like the Sonys are rated for 30, I forget what the Nothing's rated at. I'll put it on the screen. But if you're used to getting 30 or 40 hours of use out of your headphones, you shouldn't be too disappointed in these. They should work pretty similarly and give you about the same amount of battery life out of them. The issue that I ran into is that when I first got them out of the box, I was able to connect to the QCY app that's available on the Google Play Store or in the iOS App Store. And everything was fine, but since then, I came back from Christmas vacation. I wanted to go ahead and document all of my test notes, all of my review notes, and I wanted to go back into the app and kind of play around with it, and I couldn't connect to it. I even tried installing the app on a completely different device, pairing it to a completely different device. I couldn't get the app to recognize it on that either. It would see it, like if you're familiar with Android and you've got the notification shade, and at the top you get these little notifications, there would be a permanent, persistent notification there, and it would say QCY H3S. But then in the app, it's like, yeah, nah, I don't know what you're talking about. There's no headphones here. So there are a lot of things that I really can't talk thoroughly about. And I want to raise this as one of the probably persistent issues that come up in my reviews and even reviews on some other people's channels, is that you're reliant on these apps to work to get a lot of these features to have the benefit in your life that you would like, right? So these headphones in the application have different modes. There's a game mode, there's a movie mode, there's music mode. You can't really do any of that without the app. You can't go in and change equalizer settings. You can't go in and create your own equalizer settings. You can't go in and update the firmware. Now, that said, because these headphones have hardware controls, everything that you need to really just use them is here. You can control the basic things, volume and play pause, and change the ANC modes with just the buttons that are here. So that's pretty useful. So unfortunately, I can't really speak to that, but I can talk to the sound out of the box. And the sound out of the box is actually really pretty good at this price range. Again, I compared them against the Sonys and the Nothings, which not a really fair comparison. These are significantly more expensive. The sound out of the box on the QCY, I think, compares most favorably with the XM5. They both have what many people refer to as a commercial or very mainstream sound with elevated bass and reduced mids, and then the treble goes back up again. And that's pretty much what you get here. It's not completely fair, but there is a good amount of bass here out of the box. It's not overwhelming, but it does muddy up the mids a little bit. So if you are a mids monster, if you're a person who really values your mids, you're going to want to ensure that the app works, because you're probably going to want to change equalizer presets and bring those mids back up a little bit. If you're a person who really likes your treble sharp and bright and sibilant, who are you? Who are those people there? People who maybe there are people who like sibilants. I don't know. I'm not one of them. I don't like my treble sharp, and I can't stand sibilants. I didn't run into any of that here with the out-of-the-box settings. But if you can obviously go in, if the app works for you, and tweak that. It's got similar, again, I'd say frequency response to the Sonys, where the Sonys do better, which you would hope and pray for the much more money that they cost, so that you get a little bit better clarity, you get a little bit better detail. But I wouldn't say it's worlds better. It is better, you expect that, but what you're really paying for with the XM series, the XM5s, the XM6s, is noise canceling. And noise canceling is significantly better on the Sony than it is here. But from a sound perspective, I'd say they're actually pretty similar. If you're the kind of person who puts headphones on and you're not really listening, critically to, address, well, every little detail in the song, exactly at this point in the song, the cymbal is going to hit here, and exactly at that point in the song, there's going to be a little detail in the background. People who pick out those really nitpicky details, you'll hear a lot of people talk about Michael Jackson music and how there's certain things at 3 minutes and 30 seconds into this song. If you're not that person, if you're a person who just puts headphones on and you're just listening and you're enjoying the sound and you just want something inexpensive and good, then these, I think, are right up your alley. Again, I don't think anybody buys the Sony XM series for sound. I think they buy it for noise canceling, and you hope and pray you get decent sound, and they've been improving that over the years. But here you're getting, I'd say, solid sound, but you don't get the noise canceling performance that you would get out of the Sonys. So let's talk about active noise canceling, because it's something that I can speak to without the app, because you do get the control on A and C with your button right here. So you've got the 3 modes. You've got active noise canceling, you've got A and C completely off, and then you've got ambient mode. Now, again, it's with noise that isn't steady state where you really notice the difference. Because if you have steady state noise, an air conditioner, a heater, the sound that's in my background right now of, I don't know, is trucks and construction, because they're tearing up my street and there's no good time for me to record without catching the noise of them tearing up my street. But sounds like that sounds like that will be eliminated with this. You won't hear those low rumbles and hums. You won't hear that. That will be pretty much well eliminated. I'd say a good percentage of airplane noise would be eliminated, but not completely. I think these are still going to do better on airplane noise. Where you really notice the noise canceling isn't quite as good is with stuff that isn't steady state, right? So the sound of typing, that's going to come across. I was surprised when I first got the XM5s and the XM6s at how well they really did mute the sound of typing on a mechanical keyboard. I didn't expect that. You don't get that here. You're going to hear your typing. You're going to hear voices break through. You're going to hear high-pitched noises. Anything that's higher, anything that's not steady state, that's not giving a chance for the algorithm to kind of pick it up, that's all going to come through pretty clearly. The ambient sound, though, is better than I expected. Now, if you're an ambient sound purist, you're an AirPods person, whether it be the in-ear AirPods or the AirPods Max, and you're all about that near perfection in ambient, then yeah, you're gonna probably nitpick on this. But it's not hissy. Neither the noise canceling nor the ambient is hissy. I can't tell you how many different noise canceling products I've used that are hissy. You turn them on the ANC and it's like, or you turn on the ambient, it's like immediately. You don't get any of that here. You don't get the hissing noise. I'd say it's hard to quantify it, but I'd say that the ambient performance here is much better than I expected, and it's very similar to not having the headphones on. It's not exactly the same. There are some frequencies that are muted even in ambient mode, and you take your headphones off and you're like, oh, okay, I do hear that maybe a higher pitched sound. But it's really close, and if you just want to be able to hear your surroundings, you just want to be able to quickly, you think you hear something around you or people trying to talk to you, you can easily just push the button, go into ambient, and hear whatever you need. Or if you want, be stealthy, people think that you can't hear them and you can hear what they're talking about. I know people do this. I used to work in corporate America. I know people do this. So you can do that here. You can push your button and hear everything that's going around you just fine. People will think that you can't hear them. So you can do that here. I think, again, for $50, these are actually pretty solid. I was surprised at how well they compete against the XM5s. But if you're the kind of person who's like, well, the XM5s sound like garbage, well, you're not gonna like these, okay? You're not. You're just not gonna be happy with them. Now, again, if you get the app to work, you can equalize them and get somewhere with that, right? But it's not gonna sound like a $500 pair of Sennheisers or a $500 pair of Focals or something like that. You're not gonna get that. They're $50. You get what you pay for. But I think they sound really good for what they are. Now, one other note on the sound. I mentioned that out of the box, these have a pretty bass heavy, not obnoxiously bass heavy, but a decent bass heavy sound signature out of the box. And again, if you get the app to work, you can tweak that for you. But if you want to know what these drivers are capable of doing, these amazingly work over USB-C. You can plug them in to your device. Almost most Android devices and iPhones, iPads support USB-C audio. You plug them in with the USB-C cable and you get a different sound profile because now you're just getting the sound of the drivers. And it does change how it sounds. That muddiness that you get from the elevated bass kind of crowding out the mids goes away. You get an increased mid-range response. You get a little bit less of the bass response. You get a little bit of an impact to the treble as well. It's just a flatter sound signature. So if you're more of a purist and you've been looking for headphones that work over USB-C, they're inexpensive. Because I can tell you, over the Christmas break, I was looking for a pair of headphones somewhere in the $100, $150, maybe $200 range that would do USB-C audio, and it was hard because I wanted to pick a brand that I was familiar with. I wanted to pick a brand that I knew and trusted. Soundcore didn't do it. Some of the other inexpensive Sennheisers didn't do them. You had to go a little bit more expensive. Anything else that was in that price range, a lot of the stuff I just wasn't as familiar with, and even then a lot of them didn't support USB-C audio. So for this to support USB-C audio, it doesn't have a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, so I know that's going to be a great disappointment to many people, but you do get USB-C audio, and that really allows you some flexibility with the longevity of these, because even after Bluetooth stops working and connecting the way you would want it to, you still have the option of USB-C. I think that's amazing at the $50 price point. Again, I was searching for headphones double, triple the price, and most of them didn't do that. Now, Bluetooth connectivity, really quickly, I didn't have any issues with Bluetooth connectivity. If you watch any of my other audio reviews, you know I like to use them around the house. I like to take them out, check my mail, which isn't that far. I walk down my porch and a few steps and I go to my mailbox. If I close the front door, I lose a whole bunch of audio products. Didn't lose these. I can go downstairs in my basement and fetch my laundry, and I will get a dropout when I pass down the stairs and I'm going through that extra wall. As soon as I come around the corner and I'm fully downstairs, there's no dropouts at that point, and everything is cool. So I can stand downstairs at my washing machine and my dryer and do all my laundry drama, and it's fine. I didn't have any connectivity problems from that perspective. So one minor dropout is I'm on the way down the stairs, but then everything's fine once I'm fully downstairs. So I would consider the Bluetooth connectivity here to be above average. Not the best I've used, but definitely not the worst, because there's so many that I lose the connection as soon as I'm thinking about going downstairs, and it never comes back until I come back upstairs. Or even worse, I come back upstairs and I have to reconnect it manually. And there's many products where I walk out to my mailbox, door open, door closed, doesn't matter. I walk off the porch and it's like, nope, you need to go back inside. So the fact that these can work at least that far away is a plus. I talked a little bit about aesthetics and comfort, and I just want to reinforce headband, really comfortable. No issues with, I didn't have any pressure point issues. It's reasonably well padded. The ear cups are pretty soft and pliable. I think the depth here is pretty good. It's a little bit deeper than what you get on the Sony. It's a little deeper than what you get on some other headphones that I have wire to wireless. Maybe not quite as deep as on the Nothing. The Nothing does look a little bit deeper to me. If you look at this side view, it does look like there's a little bit more depth here. You see how far back that cup goes and how far back this cup goes. It may just be the black being deceptive, but I think the Nothing cup is a little bit deeper, because you've got the rubber going to here, and then you've got like a little bit more space underneath there. So these ear cups, I think, despite them being so thin, they have pretty good depth on them. I don't think you have quite as much depth here, but you do have more depth than what you get on the Sonys. And I think even though that they are inexpensive, I don't think that they look like cheap garbage. I think they look pretty good. For $50 headphones, I wouldn't be ashamed to wear these out in the public. Maybe you would. I wouldn't have any problems with them. The only thing that really gives them away, I think that they are inexpensive, is that they're very plasticky. They're a little creaky. This is an audio recording using the QCY H3S wireless Bluetooth headphones with ANC. We're going to test the noise canceling abilities of the microphone. I have a portable air purifier here. I'm going to hold it up to my face. It is on low and it is in my face. I'm going to blow the air at the microphones and see if the wind noise makes a difference in how it sounds. Can you still hear me? That's on low. And turn it up to medium. Got it in my face again. I'm going to blow the air at the headphones, blowing the hair from the air purifier at the headphones. How does that sound? Can you still understand me? I'm going to turn it to high. It's on high. And then low. Does that sound? Can you still understand me? Can you still hear me? Am I clear? Oops. And turn it back off. It has been the QCY H3S. This is an audio recording test using the Nothing Headphone 1, a modern noise canceling Bluetooth headphone headset. It is pretty interesting looking, but how does it sound from a vocal perspective? I'm going to test the microphone noise canceling capabilities with my usual air purifier test. I'm going to turn it on low. That's on low. I have it right in front of my face, like inches from my mouth. On medium. I can barely hear this myself, so I don't know how this is coming through. And then on loud. That's on loud. I can't hear the loud now, but, or on the highest setting, I should say. Anyway, Nothing headphone, air purifier on the highest setting. I'm going to turn it off. And I'm back. Do I sound better now? What do you think? Nothing headphone 1. So I think for my final notes and comments on these headphones, I think that these represent a really good value. Around $50, you get pretty decent sound performance. They compete fairly favorably with the Sony WH-1000 XM5s, despite those costing a lot more. Again, if you're a person who doesn't think the XM5s sound good, then you're probably not going to like the QCYs. But if the app works for you, you've got some equalization options there that you can take advantage of to make it sound a little bit different. And if you plug it in over USB-C, you get around all of that and you just get the drivers and how they sound with better mid-range and a little bit less bass for a little bit more of a flatter frequency response. The fact that you can use them over USB-C makes them a really good option for longer term use. So even after the battery kind of gives out on you after time, you still got the option of being able to plug them in and use them that way. I think that's really awesome for a $50 pair of headphones. Again, I looked at headphones double and triple the price and wasn't able to get that feature. The fact that they fold up makes them easy to travel with. The fact that they have hardware buttons makes them easy to use. If the app does work for you, you get game mode and movie mode and music mode. You have LDAC support. You have high-res wireless certification over wireless with LDAC and wired with the cable. You get decent microphone performance. Not the best for outdoors use because of the wind performance with the microphone and the lack of water and dust protection on the headphones. But I think for what you get for $50, I think these are kind of a compelling option to consider. You might even shop these before you buy something at $100. I think once you get up to $150, you're expecting a lot more, but at $100 or less, I think the QCY H3S is an interesting option to consider. They're not perfect. They don't sound the best. They don't have the best noise canceling. They really just do best with steady state noise. But again, I think for $50 as a backup pair or a primary pair if you're on a budget, I think they are worth considering. I think it's an interesting package for the price. So that's what I think about the QCY H3S. Again, possibly worth your consideration. I think they're pretty good for the price. Thanks for watching.